Sam Mayer out on this mile-and-a-half racetrack, and currently there have been 31 that have already taken a lap, and Sam Mayer is 23rd fastest on his first lap, so hoping to get a little more speed. He's the one driver that's just above the cut line when we're looking at the points.
In Las Vegas, so it's a mile-and-a-half. It has the similar shape of, say, Charlotte, but what's different this end right here is Sam Mayer's in 1 and 2 right around the bottom. DJ, I think it's a little bit rougher around the bottom. The bumps of the racetrack, a little bit more content low than high. And then this end of the racetrack, I think, is a little bit smoother. But I've always thought it was lower grip. I don't know if that's kind of the angle of the sun from the summer heat or what. But 3 and 4 just doesn't seem to have the same grip.
Yeah, you always think that you want to get back to the gas. You have to get back to the gas. But it just seems like that it's a lot like Darlington off of turn 2, where you just don't feel like sometimes that you can ever give yourself enough room because you're carrying so much speed, and that the grip just seems to get less and less as you exit there. But I think Sam Mayer was just listening to what you were saying a while ago on our opening about don't go out here and mess things up. Take it easy, because he moved right up to 7th quickest now.
What do you think about momentum, DJ? Are you a believer in momentum after coming off last week, a win? Does that get everybody excited about, going into these final 4 races?
I don't know about momentum's not a word that I would use as much as confidence. And it's just the driver gets that confidence. Hey, I won. I'm the most recent winner. I can do this. I've proven that I can do this. He's done it quite a few times now this year. So he is feeling like that he belongs. And so, yes, that confidence and momentum, if you will, for the entire team. But it gives everybody around him on this team a feeling of confidence in their driver, and they're ready to go after it again.
Kim.
And there's a second thing giving Sam Mayer confidence besides last week's win, and he told me that's because he is above the cut line to enter this round for the first time. That's very different in years past where he's come in below the cut line. So that, he said, gives him a lot of confidence. And, when he got that race win last week, and he kind of had a hard time finding his words describing how important that win was, but he told me today that was by far the most important win of the season because it continues their season and lets them race for a championship.
Well, the other thing that impressed me with that win last week was the manner in which he did it. The way the track position and pit stops, he kind of lost a little bit at the end, and he didn't bulldoze his way through. I know when we showed the highlight, he kind of got in the back of Custer a little bit, but he could have bulldozed his way through way easier and sooner. He almost took a breath, gave it another lap, and passed this guy, Cole Custer, who you mentioned Sam Mayer 8th on the board, but Cole Custer's at the top of the board, and this is more what I expected out of Cole Custer when he was going to be announced to be in this 00 this year. This is a cup-level driver. I know he had to get used to these Xfinity cars, which definitely drive different, DJ, but I think he plays spoiler in this championship battle. Yeah,
you don't want to lose sight that he understands what battling for a championship here is, and everything that you have to do, and that mental side of understanding that. Everybody can talk about they're excited about being a part of the round of 8 and going and racing for a championship, but when you've done that, that gives you a whole different mindset than a lot of people you're racing around.
Cole Custer fastest so far in this practice session.
That's Jonathan Toney at the bottom. That's Cole Custer's crew chief. Very recognizable voice on the radio. Gets that heavy southern accent. Smart man, though. Understands. And Cole, every time I talk to the two of them, it's just an interesting conversation, because Cole admitted, he goes, I think I took for granted when I was in the Xfinity Series full-time just how comfortable these cars were and how much I was used to it. He said, I jumped back into them, and things have changed. What they're doing with the cars and the size of the sidewall, the tire versus the Cup car. It has a different steering mechanism than the Cup car that he used to drive. Just overall, he had to kind of readjust.
Cole Custer coming into this race 2 points below the cut line. 2 wins already on the season.
Josh Berry right in front of him.
Man that knows how to win here.
I was going to say, Mr. Las Vegas.
Chandler Smith behind the wheel of the 16, another one of the playoff drivers.
Great car. The last trip here led a lot of laps and just a long run to the finish. And you see right here, the back of the car, he just loses a little bit of grip on that long run. And Austin Hill, much like Austin Hill fashion, showed up when the pay window was open. You could see the disappointment, and he earned that disappointment, Kim. That 16 had the car to beat, just the race didn't fall how he needed it.
And I asked crew chief Bruce Schlicker what they learned from the spring race in Vegas where they were so close to that win. And he said two things. A, on the long run, they did need their car to turn a little bit more. And then B, not to drive with your mirror. He said Chandler just got a little bit nervous when he saw Austin Hill in the mirror, and that's when he gave up the most time. So no mirror driving is the biggest lesson learned from the spring race.
There's John Hunter Nemechek in the 20. And right now, John Hunter is currently 12th as far as a lap.
DJ, I want to talk about what Kim just reported on, because that's an interesting point about not mirror driving. The reason I say that is because I understand the coaching, the idea that look forward and worry about your car. But when is it the opposite? When is it, I need you to mirror drive, and that's because at this high speed of the racetrack, as we see John Hunter working around outside of Parker Rutt's lap right here, you hear those bumps. Yeah, crashes over the bumps. You know, when is it you need to be out the mirror and taking away the guy behind you's line? Yeah,
that does become important. As you know, you don't want to just, maybe as someone's running you down, there might be a glance. You know, if you realize that you're getting beat there, glancing and seeing just for a second, is he beating me on the entry to the corner? And obviously spotters can help out with this too, but you can take just a second to glance and see, okay, he beat me off of turn 2, he continues to do this. But as they get close enough to make a difference, then you have to start thinking about, okay, I need to know where he's running so I can take the air away as much as I possibly can to try to impede his progress just a little bit. Anything that you can do with that short amount of time. We're talking about just over a lap left that he had there in trying to do it. But his car had just gotten so free on the exit of the corner, it was hard for him to do. But it's a lesson learned. You know, you have to chalk these things up. Not many people go out here and just start winning this. Everybody can't beat Kyle Busch and just win immediately and very often. Others, you have to learn things about that. And Kyle Busch will tell you he's still learning how to win races in certain situations to this day, too.
Another one of the playoff drivers. And right now, the slowest of the 8s is Austin Hill. He's 21st fastest for a lap.
You know, so it's hard to handicap the 21. This is a guy that won 3 of the first 5 races of the year. Yeah. I mean, out of the box, so strong. Now, no one can keep up that pace. But I feel like it cooled off a little more than I expected, right? Only one more win in the regular season, right? He won all the way back at Pocono. And while it hasn't been awful, Kim, I don't know. I guess I just expected more out of the 21 with such a great start to the season.
And remember, they won the Las Vegas spring race. So when I was talking with crew chief Andy Street earlier today, I asked the confidence level coming into this weekend, and he pointed out that even though they won that race in the spring, that doesn't mean the car was perfect or they raced it perfectly. He said they've been working diligently over the course of the season to figure out exactly what Austin needs at the intermediate tracks. And right now, it doesn't seem like they've found it, because Austin came on the radio. He said it is extremely tight, chattering the front tires. He can't get over the bumps in turn 1. So they definitely need more work on that 21 car of Austin Hill.
Yeah, and as you talk about those places, you know, winning 3 of those first, you have to look. Daytona and Atlanta, basically drafting tracks, which is a specialty of his. Not that he can't get it done everywhere. And then, you know, then he won with basically a last lap pass here, so it wasn't like he was dominating on these type of tracks. But he does have a good streak going on mile-and-a-half tracks, where he's got 7 races in the top 10 with finishes. So, you know, if it's not his best place, but the thing is, if you're going to struggle here and then you look ahead to Homestead next week, I would say if you're going to struggle here, you're probably going to struggle there too.
Driver of the 18, Sammy Smith, will be moving over to Junior Motorsports in 2024, but he's got some unfinished business here with Joe Gibbs Racing. And here's a driver who you would think, okay, if he can get into that championship 4, so where he gets to Phoenix, he won there already this year, and so could definitely put himself at the top of the list as far as favorites going back to that racetrack for a second time this year.
Well, I think for the 18, the whole trick is to try to get there and try to get there with some sort of consistency. I think self-admittedly from behind the wheel, I know the crew chief would agree and the team would agree that just too much aggression, too many mistakes, just too much contact with other cars. That's kind of been the story of the 18's year. And not only just for finishes, but, you know, Kim, when you don't have smooth races, it's hard to fill your notebook. Remember, this driver's only 19 years old. It's important to run kind of every lap just to continue to learn.
Absolutely, and they have recently kind of turned their luck around because they went through a long slump where they just couldn't finish races. They had tons of bad luck, so they seem to be a little bit on the up and up compared to what we saw during the summer from that team. Right now, though, Sammy saying that he washes up a little in the center of the corner. So, Steve, when you're hearing that from a driver, is that something that Sammy can adjust in the race car in terms of attacking the track, or is that something that you have to diagnose on the car?
Well, I think you always want to look and see if you can help with the car, but there is a lot of options that drivers have here when it comes to the bumps and the transition, kind of about your angle of approach, right? If you can get the turning done early to try to go around the bumps or straighter across the bumps. So there are things you can do. And that's a hard balance because if I'm supposed to be working on the car, you know, DJ, and you're working on your line, we just have to make sure we're on the same page to understand what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and you know, it doesn't matter if you're going to try to run the bottom or if you're going to do the middle if you're encountering a car that's running slower on the inside or forcing you to make that pass on the outside. Every driver that you see do well at this racetrack is a driver that does really good arcing into the corner. You look at Kyle Larson, outstanding at these type of racetracks. He takes a wide arc into the corner, and there's a number of others that you could go through. But, you know, others have made it not work exactly like by not doing that, but you have to keep doing the same things in practice if you're going to make adjustments to the car. If you're changing your line and doing something totally different, it's hard to get a balance there.
Talk a lot about the playoff cars, Rick, but this is a car I think really needs to be looked at this weekend just because of the driver, right? Yep. Ryan Reed back behind the wheel. We haven't seen him since Xfinity Series team for Roush shut down all the way back to the beginning of 2019. He, you know, we used to see him in that, I can still picture it though, that Lily's Diabetes, that red and white car for Roush Racing back then. And so it's been, what, over 5 years now since he's raced.
Yeah, had success. Two-time winner in the Xfinity Series.
And talking about playoffs, look, he made the playoffs his last 3 seasons. So this was a driver and team that was building. Roush Fenway, I mean, look at the championship in the Xfinity Series. I mean, Ricky Stenhouser's a long list of drivers. And Ryan, when that team shut down, just never really found another home. And so it's great to see him back behind the wheel.
And tough for a driver like Ryan Reed, a 30-year-old. You know, he's getting to that point where when the rides aren't out there, it's difficult for a driver, you know, even though his resume was fairly solid, difficult to find those rides and those opportunities as we see Daniel Hemrick coming off the track now.
Just a few more races and he'll be a Cup driver, full-time Cup next year. So I know he wishes he would have advanced in the playoffs, but enjoy these last 3 or 4 because old Sundays, as he knows, he's been there before, but Sundays are a whole different ball game.
Kim, what's going on with the 20? John Hunter Nemechek already out of the car. Are they checking on something there?
Well, Rick, they're about to push that car behind the wall and getting a report that gear oil was leaking out of the right rear, a huge puddle. And remember, last week at the Charlotte Roval, a similar situation where they were leaking oil. They did not get to make a qualifying lap. And in fact, they will not get a pit stall selection. They will be assigned a pit stall because of that issue last week. So we'll have to follow up, see what John Hunter thinks about what is not a great start to the round of 8 in the playoffs for him.
And that really looks like an inner axle seal. So you have the rear gear and then the axles go out and drive each tire. Well, as you continue to turn left, the oil inside the gear wants to sling to the right, you know, like spinning a 5-gallon bucket. And there are seals that the axles ride through. And they're very important because if the seal tears, the oil goes into the right rear hub, which is supposed to have grease, not oil.
Right.
And that's why I think, because there's no real oil in the right rear area of the car, it has to be something going over that way. So this is going to be a lengthy repair. Definitely nothing they're going to get done before qualifying. And now you have to put the car all back together. This is what we were talking about. Winning's great.
Yeah.
But now he starts last. Remember, if they go into turn 1 and someone has a wreck and John Hunter's in it, all of that work gone, evaporated, all those playoff points.
Yeah. It'll be great to hear Kim get his words, but I think we probably know what he's thinking.
Yeah.
About right
well,
now as a driver.
The other
leadership, though, this is little, but just pushing the car. Like, he's not pointing or yelling at his guys. Like, all right, we're going to rally the troops here.
And this also affects next week. So you think about it, you've only got 3 races. He's not going to be able to qualify here. Now his pit selection for next week, he's going to probably pick last. So that's going to affect 2 races by what's happening here, Kim.
That's right, and if anything, though, is working in their favor, it's those 37 points they have to the good. And I know Steve said they evaporate fast, but I did talk with the team, and they were one of the few playoff teams I talked to today that had done all of the math on what they needed to do to move on if they couldn't win. They figured out the exact metric of where they have to finish without getting any stage points in each of 3 races. So while this is a huge detriment to the team, you have to think that they have shown us what they can do this season, and they'll figure a way out of this hole.
Well, if they don't have any issues, they'll recover. They were top of the board on 10-lap average and 15-lap average. So a lot of speed in that 20. It's just more of now you've put other people's issues potentially involving you by your own mistake.
Yeah.
We see Sheldon Creed here in the 2. Big news this week that Sheldon Creed will not be back with RCR next year. No word right now on the plans for Sheldon Creed, if he has anything right now for his future.
You know, Rick, you and I were riding here. We were kind of talking about this series as a whole. So Junior Motorsports is pretty well shored up. We've heard about all 4 drivers that are going there. We heard Sheldon Creed's teammate in the 21 announced a while back that he's returning to RCR. But there's a long list of just question marks, right? We have some unanswered questions at Kaulig, unanswered at Joe Gibbs. We know John Hunter's going Cup racing. So there's still a lot of movement in this series. Now, that's not new for the Xfinity series, but you have to think to yourself, that's just one more distraction kind of in this playoff series. You know, if this was a regular stick and ball sport and the quarterback wasn't signed as you entered the playoffs, people would be like, oh, well, that's a major distraction. You need to get that accomplished. So there are some other seats and personnel moving around. You just have to wonder, it's not an effort, it's a distraction thing, right? Like, how much is it taking your time? Kim, you're hustling down there.
I am. We're going to get a word with John Hunter in a second, but he's hustling, helping that car. On the Sheldon Creed announcement, though, I did talk to him, and he said, admittedly, the team, all of his guys were very disappointed. He did not shy away from talking about the mood that the team held after he made that announcement, but he said that doesn't mean that their goals and their focus changes. They still want to win a championship, and more importantly, they want to win a race. Remember, Sheldon Creed is still winless in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. These guys have been together for a couple of years. He said the best thing he can do before he leaves RCR is to get a win for the shop guys.
Wasn't it just weird, DJ, like to announce,
yeah,
you're not coming, but that normally comes with them going somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for it to be right after you've just made the round of 8. I mean, he drove his tail off last week to make that happen at the Roval and then have this. Yeah, kind of strange when I saw that.
Very surprising. Well, of the 8 drivers, the first one has had an issue, and it's John Hunter Nemechek, who's at the top of the charts, actually helping the team out there, running the jack. We've got qualifying for the Xfinity Series coming up. Fans, download the official app of NASCAR. You can follow the action with free live scoring. There's in-car cameras as well as a radio broadcast. Search NASCAR in your app store, and you can start a free trial today. It's beautiful to come out here to the deserts. Nellis Air Force Base just off the backstretch. It's called Nellis Straightaway. There on the backstretch, and we take a look at the top 10 from practice, and Cole Custer, the top of this list. Sammy Smith, Sam Mayer, Justin Allgaier, the playoff drivers, but then you throw in, you got Daniel Hemrick with a good lap, Parker Retzlaff, Josh Berry, Dawson Cram, a great lap there in 6th.
Yeah, that's what I see. I mean, I see that I expected the playoff drivers to be good, but only 4 of them made the top 10. Riley Herbst there in 10th. His kind of momentum of the week continues. Announced he was returning the hometown race, looking for a little excitement.
Cole Custer, Steve, you mentioned it, after being a Cup driver back in the Xfinity Series, and he's got a pretty good relationship right now with his crew chief, Jonathan Toney.
Cole Custer and crew chief Jonathan Toney have a working partnership with a 20-year foundation.
I've probably known Cole since, I don't know, 2004, so I guess when he was 4 or 5 years old.
My dad's always worked for Haas, back in the day when it was Ward Burton, Mike Bliss.
I think I remember, first time I remember Cole, he had these little hilly shoes on, and he'd come rolling down a ramp that we had in the back of the truck.
Tony joined Gene Haas's team before it was transformed by Tony Stewart's arrival. He was the lead engineer for Stewart's third championship.
When Tony came around, the whole thing just shot off.
Stewart Haas Racing had expanded into the Xfinity Series, while a teenage Cole emerged as a rising star.
First time I went to the racetrack with him as an engineer was in 17 at Homestead, and just the way he had prepared for that weekend.
Looking for their first win, Cole Custer. He's going to win in Miami.
After 11 Xfinity wins and 2 championship round appearances, Cole was promoted to Cup and won as a rookie.
I was excited for him, and that was proof that he was prepared.
Returning to Xfinity in 2023, Cole had a plan for winning the elusive title.
This is what Cole Custer came back to the Xfinity Series to do.
We were looking at crew chiefs before the year, and I just kind of knew JT was the guy. Doesn't have an ego. He's going to really communicate with you what you need.
Good job there, bud. But hang there, we need to get it a little bit better.
We've been able to make ourselves into a championship contender. They really don't know what we can do in these last races yet.
We put up a good fight. That was exactly what we need to do.
And, that relationship from driver to crew chief, people ask, what's the value of it? It's not about making a car faster. It's not even really about communicating and loose and tight. It's about managing the roller coaster of an entire season, because you have great weeks. You have awful weeks. Sometimes you flat make the wrong call on top of the pit box, or the driver just makes a mistake. Everyone is human. But when you know each other and you spend that much time together and have that history, I think it's just way easier to not celebrate the peaks too much, but more importantly, not kind of let the valleys get you off course. And we'll see if, that carries him off into another championship appearance for Cole Custer. We'll see how consistent Cole Custer and this 00 team are. They were fastest in practice. Can they back it up in qualifying? That is coming up next from here at Las Vegas. Tomorrow, it's Cup Series practice and qualifying on USA, then countdown to green for the first race of the round of 8 for the Xfinity Series. And, of course, Petit Le Mans from Road Atlanta on USA at 6:30. You don't want to miss that. And Sunday, countdown to green and the Cup Series playoffs for the round of 8 begin at 2:30. That's on NBC. So make sure to join us this weekend. Beautiful area here. Seems like I might have lost a golf ball in one of those crevices.
I thought I saw a Pro V1 exit that 2 blue dots out there. That would have been mine.
The one problem for playoff drivers is you don't want to have a mistake when you get this close to the end of the playoffs. And already John Hunter Nemechek having an issue with their number 20 team. Kim is standing by with him.
That's right, Rick. For the second week in a row, John Hunter won't make a qualifying lap. We were hearing gear oil leak. Can you offer some more specificity on what happened and if the car was giving you any feedback?
Definitely smells like gear oil for sure. I'm not sure if we have a seal that got pinched or nicked or something and started leaking some gear oil. So I smelled it. And then we had a puff of smoke off turn 2 before I came in there. So the good news is our Pi Barker Toyota GR Supra is as fast as Xfinity 10G. Feel like we're one of the best cars, and just have to go race tomorrow. It sucks not to qualify. Sucks for not getting to pick pits next week at Homestead. But in the end, things like this happen, and what makes a true championship team is how you overcome it. So I have faith in all my guys, faith in everyone at Joe Gibbs Racing, and I'll go get stage point stage 1 tomorrow.
You mentioned some of the implications. How do you not let those trip you up in terms of your focus and your momentum?
Go race. We have fast cars. I just got to do my job, and I'll earn my pay tomorrow.
Earn my pay tomorrow. I like the confidence of saying getting stage points in stage 1. Starting at the back. That's pretty good. Qualifying about to get underway. 40 cars here. So we know that the 20 is not going to be involved. So there'll be 39 that'll be out there, but 40 cars to fill 38 spots. 2 will end up going home at the end of the qualifying efforts today.
As we were going away to break, we showed the top 10 on speeds. Dawson Cram was one of those drivers that had just a really nice practice, 6 quick at a 30.60. We'll see what qualifying does. First Xfinity Series starts here. Has made a couple truck starts.
And you have a couple of options as a driver around this track. Obviously, getting down to that white line, shortest way around, if you can make that work and carry your speed. Kim was talking earlier about the difficulty of qualifying here because you're pretty much wide open around here. If you're going to run a top lap, you've got to be committed to the throttle and hope your level of commitment and the grip in your car matches that level of commitment that you have.
And not to try to, put any sort of easy approach about what they're doing. But the one good news is the wind is a little lower than sometimes we see out here. Because if you get a big side gust and over those bumps, and then you are it's about just trying to predict or guess what your car's going to do.
30.35, that's 25 100ths faster than what he ran in practice. So a little bit of a pickup for Dawson Cram, but a really good lap for that 74. Is now we have Kyle Sieg on track.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to say, right? In March, the pole was about a 29.5, but it was much cooler. So there's definitely some grip there, I think.
Yeah. I see Kyle Sieg. He's done a really good job. Kind of his first full year, full-time in this series. Had some really good runs along the way. And talked to him a couple of times this weekend. Been at the same hotel there and seen him around. And it's a good young man. And I know that he's just looking forward to continue this experience and getting better as a driver.
Older brother Ryan Sieg has been a veteran of the series as we see Patrick Emmerling on the clock.
That's kind of that different approach. I think that was a middle to higher lane in 1 and 2. Probably concerned about the bumps.
Yes.
Maybe his car's not handling well over the bumps. Right. And while you may think it's a little slower, maybe it's more predictable.
Be that, and there's nothing wrong with staying up there. The thing is that's carrying the speed, and if you're more comfortable doing it there and not taking that chance, there's a good chance that you can run just as fast as you would right against the white line.
Again, I mentioned 2 drivers will be eliminated from the running order. Patrick Emmerling could be one of those. His 31.18, we'll have to see how that stacks up against some of the other drivers as we see Ryan Reed on track now.
That's what happens when the bumps don't go right. He gets down there and the front starts bouncing and up the track you go.
He was committed. The tires weren't quite there. Yeah. But he got down into the corner.
Well, remember, he hasn't done this since 2018. We talk a lot about how technology changes. I mean, 5-6 years since this man's expected and experienced what that's like to go down into 1 and 2 in these bumps and try to get qualified.
Best finish here at this track, 9th, but it was, like you mentioned, 2017. There's RCR drivers chatting.
It's been a little bit of a bumpy playoffs. Remember, these two got into each other at Bristol, and
there was also a qualifying session. Neither of them were able to run because of mechanical issues. Again, that was the big news this last week. Sheldon Creed not coming back to RCR in 2024. Here's Joey Gase as he's now on the clock behind the wheel of this 35.
And Joey was a little bit off in practice. That looked uncomfortable over the
Still
bump.
does.
Yeah.
I forgot there were that many bumps down in 1 and 2.
You lose track with some cars. This one, unfortunately, we could see them all.
Almost a second off of what Cram has put up. Again, I think Dawson Cram's lap of 30.35 is going to be pretty stout.
Yeah.
So Joey Gase 31.43. Here's Gray Galding coming out in the 07. Don't see him a lot this year, or haven't seen him a lot. His last outing was Daytona, a 9th place finish, but it has been 5 races since Daytona.
See that car bouncing around. It's just so difficult knowing what you have to go out and do as a driver. And
chasing it up the racetrack there, yeah.
It's like, which way is this bump going to send me?
31.57 for Gaulding. And it seemed like Dawson Cram did not run as low as what we're seeing some of these other guys try to run.
Yeah.
And it worked out for him. Here's Garrett Smithley. Garrett has 9 starts here at Las Vegas.
Yeah, I see a lot of them taking a more shallow entry into turn 1, and you're setting yourself up just to be in those bumps the entire time. And I think what we saw from Dawson Cram a little bit of that arc that I was talking about, so you can eliminate a few of those first bumps, and then once you start, if you've got the wheels to where you're having to turn more and you start that bumping process, then you can't turn the wheel. You're just trying to kind of hold on.
31.48 for Smithley. And let's head back to pit road. And Kim.
With the NASCAR Xfinity Series most recent winner, Sam Mayer, but new week, new round. Let's talk Las Vegas. What makes a perfect qualifying lap here in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, obviously high min speed is very important here. Fast racetrack like Las Vegas. Like we saw in the fall race last year, a bunch of qualifying runs that got messed up because of the bumps down to 1 and 2. So being mindful of those, but also making sure your car handles throughout the rest of the racetrack. So we'll see how it goes. I think we'll be all right, but you got to keep it solid to have a chance at the end of this race. So qualifying is very important here.
So we talk a lot about the bumps, and what Sam just said right there makes a lot of sense, which is this week Daniel Dye right there, what, fourth? Second, quick, pretty good lap. So we could make, the crew chiefs can make these cars go over those bumps like a Cadillac. They would ride perfect. They wouldn't come out of the racetrack. But then you have this very compliant car. So everywhere else, that front splitter is going to be off the ground more than you want, and it's going to be slow and out of the racetrack and not aerodynamically kind of optimized. So you can't just be as stiff as you possibly would love to have it, where it rides around the exact same height, because then you go down in there and those bumps feel like railroad tracks, and you go completely. So that's the balance. And a lot goes into it. Your driver can help. You have to make the right compromises. And then when you go to qualifying and you put more air in the tires and more tape on the nose, then the bumps are even worse at times, because now you're hitting them at a higher speed in a car that's probably even a little more rigid.
This is Ryan Ellis. And Ryan, the 33-year-old out of Virginia. 5th quickest in his lap of 31.15. CJ McLaughlin.
This was the slowest car in practice. I didn't get to see his laps in practice to see what the struggle was. We'll see if they can find any more speed in qualifying or make a correction with the car.
You Dawson Cram fans, he will be in the race tomorrow. He's locked himself in. He was one of the few that were in jeopardy of being eliminated, but with that great lap that we saw of him early, has him locked in, as we have McLaughlin at a 31.99, and Justin Allgaier still to go out to qualify. Qualifying continuing from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now out on track, we see the 38 of Joe Graff Jr. Earlier this year, a 15th place finish here at the track.
23rd in practice, about a 31 flat. We've seen a few pickups. That would be a big pickup right there as he chases it up off that bump.
Yeah.
Right up against the safer barrier, exiting 2, going down the Nellis straightaway into 3.
A little bit of a pickup.
Yeah, over a half a second slower than Dawson Cram right now. But a 5th fastest lap for Joe Graff Jr.
All right, Rajah Caruth right here. We see him in the 45, which we normally see him drive. He's running that, what's that, 17 Hendrick Cars entry at Phoenix. Great opportunity for this young driver.
And watch just how rough this is here.
Oh boy.
No.
more difficult than what he was anticipating.
You have no idea how big of a save that was, Rick. I thought we were unfortunately getting ready to see a live accident from the in-car. I mean, that orange piece should be straight up. Oh, man.
Yeah, this thing's not handling well at all.
See the right hand off the wheel in frustration. The back of the car is out of the track. Oh, my goodness.
31-34 still after all that.
Yeah, this orange tape is 90 degrees to the right. Look at that, bumps. All right, it's just what you talked about, right?
Yeah.
2 bumps in the back of the car. The first one it handled when it rebounded and hit it again right here. 1, 2. Goodbye. Oh, man. At 100 and
that was the good end.
Yeah, that's right. Here's Brett Moffitt. And while we're watching Moffitt, let's hear from Justin Allgaier. Kim?
So, Rick, the last 3 visits we've taken to mile-and-a-half tracks, it's been this guy on the pole, but we know all mile-and-a-halves are different. So what sets Vegas apart in terms of your qualifying lap here?
Well, right now, I think the biggest thing is the conditions are significantly different than what we're going to look for tomorrow. So, I don't know what to expect out of our Brand 70th anniversary Camaro. I feel like we really focus on the race tomorrow and what we need to do to be good. But, it's going to be so interesting to see where we qualify tonight. We were just talking about looking at the lap times. There's some cars that I really expected to run a good lap, and the 74 car laid down a great lap for his round of qualifying. So, the goal is to be always as fast as Xfinity 10G, but I think the other part of it is just have maneuverability in the race tomorrow and see what happens. So we're going to go out there, give it our best shot, and we qualified second here in the spring. I'd like to do 1 spot better.
1 spot better would give him the last 4 poles at mile-and-a-half tracks.
He's got to be the favorite coming in as far as grabbing the pole. We'll see what kind of speed he has compared to Cole Custer, who was fastest in practice. That's 0-2 of Blaine Perkins. Slots in 7th fastest.
Let's see what old Mr. Weatherman here, Kyle Weatherman, has. He ran just, what do you run, a 30.91 in practice. So this is looking like a big pickup. And now that car around the bottom, it looked like there were no bumps.
Yeah.
It's going to be a huge pickup if Kyle can keep this one going.
Brian Barry has this car ride so well over the bumps. It gave him even more confidence down there in 3 and 4. This car looks really good.
I feel like I could have driven that car.
Yeah.
You're a Hall of Famer, DJ. Of course you could have driven that car.
A compliment says that if I could have drove that car. Now that's telling you it's driving good. I mean, DJ.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's 66 I could have driven.
Oh.
Okay. All right.
So top of the charts for Kyle Weatherman in a 30.12. Here's Anthony Alfredo.
And I'm glad I was getting ready.
Yeah, I was going to say, you thought that was planned right there around the middle, right?
Yeah. And I was going to say that we're really seeing a big pickup as I was looking that, nobody's really picked up a ton. So, was Cole Custer, what the top speed was a while ago, that was faster than Custer ran. Was he going to pick up that much? But Kyle Weatherman just showed us that a big pickup is possible.
Well, and if you're sitting on pit road, I think you start to ask yourself, man, is there something with the track? We're not as fast as, people in general aren't as fast as we thought they would be. You start to question what you're going to feel.
Kim, what about the guy who was 5th fastest in practice?
Yeah, had a fast car in practice, but as you look at the playoff grid, minus 14 points, Sammy, so we know points are going to be crucial, meaning track position is crucial. How much confidence do you have in this car and what it can do in qualifying?
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence. We brought a lot of speed this week in our Pilot Flying J Toyota Supra, so hopefully go get some good track position here qualifying. You need to get some good stage points tomorrow, and honestly just need to probably win, but we're going to keep going and hopefully have a good 3 rounds and move on to Phoenix. Thanks.
3 races, again Vegas, then off to Homestead, Miami, and Martinsville to determine the championship 4 as we see Lane Riggs finishing up his lap, and it's a great one, 29.95.
He earned every bit of that. That was driving that car.
It was
good job.
Coming to the green super loose. I thought he was going to have to kind of baby it, and he made it happen.
Starting in the green already is Jeb Burton, and then into turn 1 it goes the other direction on him. See if he can gain some of it back down the back stretch.
Lane Riggs picked up over a second from him, and I realized he was probably just taking it easy to start practice and stuff, but from his fastest lap, it was over a second to pick up.
Special paint scheme here for Jeb Burton. You see the pink ribbon. His mother, Tabitha, will be the Grand Marshal tomorrow. She's a breast cancer survivor, so important month. You see all the pink around. It's going to be great to see her at the racetrack.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Have her involved. The pink start-finish line.
Yeah, and local was here earlier. Riley Herbst was helping paint that start-finish line. Again, the SMI tracks, we saw it at Charlotte last week, going all in on Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Oh, we got smoke coming out of the 08.
Yeah, I thought it was left rear tire smoke. I guess it is because it clears up as it goes down, but that shows you where the bumps were. Every time you hit a bump, it's a lot of smoke, though.
And more here for Stephen Parsons in that SoCal 08.
So some of the issue that you don't have in practice is the see if I can. The rear track bar, what holds the rear end housing left to right, it's bolted to the suspension on the left side, the chassis on the right, and you can adjust the height of the right side. You can do it for qualifying. Well, you can adjust the height enough that it actually moves the rear end housing left a little bit. So it could have been just a fraction of an inch away from rubbing in practice. And now you go out to qualify and you change that track bar height a little bit, and that makes it rub. I say that because they might not have a concern with the tire rub in the race. The 6 car here shows you every bump in 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So Brennan Poole coming out of turn 4, about a second and a quarter off of what we've seen out of Lane Riggs, the fastest in qualifying to this point. 29.95 for Riggs was the number. Brennan Poole goes 31.25. So many great sports teams here in Las Vegas. UNLV, we saw the Thomas and Mack Center. You've got the Raiders and, of course, the Golden Knights. At the pleasure of playing blackjack with Derek England, one of the Golden Knights back in 2018 here in Vegas. So much sports here in Sin City. Jump into the exciting, intense, and uplifting world of first responders, police, firefighters, and dispatchers as they face heart-stopping situations to save the day. The 911 Marathon is next on USA. Qualifying continues. Jeremy Clements, the next out on track for his qualifying run. Clements' family has been building engines for decades. Jeremy Clements and that family-run team out on track now. And Jeremy didn't make the playoffs this year. Was in a big battle a year ago to get into the playoffs. 17 starts here with the best finish of 11th at this racetrack. He was carrying the speed into turn 1.
Yeah, it showed you that his get up to speed lap, he did a great job through 3 and 4 of getting that. Got him a little time there. Lost a little bit in the middle of 1 and 2.
Lost a little here through 3 and 4 for Clements. He's 0.3 of a second off of what we've seen out of Lane Riggs.
Good lap, though.
Clements third fastest at a 30.25. Here comes Brandon Jones. I think we're all surprised at the successes that Brandon has not been able to find in 2023. Driving for Junior Motorsports when he made the switch to come over to Junior Motorsports. I think everyone expected him to be contending for wins virtually at every racetrack, and it just hasn't been there this season.
Yeah, I think the first part of the season, the entire organization was down on speed. You know, some things changed. They didn't seem that they had caught up quite as much. But then as the rest of the group started finding that speed, you expected him that Brandon might find himself in a position to get that win that he was going to need to move forth and be a part of the playoffs, but it just hasn't happened.
Connor Mozak in the pink number 24 on track while he's running. Let's go back down to Kim.
Well, Colleague Racing has won the last 3 poles at Vegas. The most recent to do it, Chandler Smith. I saw you talking to Austin Hill about the bumps here. Describe what it's like going over them and how it can upset the car.
Yeah, it's just, let's kind of talk to him about, you know, the difference in the bump from spring to now, kind of truck racing, when the trucks would come here in the fall and the springtime. Springtime, it's cold out, the bump isn't as abrasive. it goes through the winter or the summer months, and it's like that bump comes up a little more and the track swells up a little, and the bump's a lot more abrasive. Well, I felt the same thing today compared to the spring, and I was just trying to get his feedback, what he kind of thought there, if he felt the same way and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that definitely presents a challenge, especially with the conditions how they are right now. It's not really too hot out, but it's definitely slicker than what I was used to in the springtime. So I don't think I think we're still going to have a really fast number 16 quick tire product Chevy Camaro though.
Chandler Smith looking to sweep the polls at Vegas for 2023.
He'll have a ways to go before he climbs behind the wheel. Connor Mozak was 12th fastest on his lap. This is Josh Williams. Josh, the 30-year-old out of Florida, is 11th fastest on his qualifying lap. Comes Parker Retzlaff.
A really good car in practice.
Yeah, let's see how a car that was up in the top 5, he was 3rd quickest in 1 lap times in practice, and his car actually was pretty good throughout the runs. See how he navigates this. A little smoke there also, Steve.
Oh yeah, smoking up the track a little bit, but he stays in the gas all the way to the dust.
Stays in the gas and in the green. We'll see how he does through 3 and 4.
Yeah, looking good. Losing a little bit of time right there, but he's going to be quick enough to have fast time right now. Nice lap.
Grabs back a little bit on his way to the finish line there, and Parker Retzlaff is fastest in qualifying at a 29.80.
Yeah, so that was about 7/10 pickup from his fast lap in practice. So there is speed there in qualifying with the things that you're allowed to do, Steve.
Yeah, normally you would think the track's going to pick up, but looks like the sun's kind of broken out through the little bit of the cloud cover. You see right there, the 39 of Sieg pops out of turn 2 onto the backstretch, and we start to see a shadow off the cars. A lot brighter than it was. We'll see if that slows the cars down at all.
As Ryan Sieg finishes up his lap, let's go back to Kim.
Sheldon Creed and his team showing strength recently. Top 10 finishes in 7 of the last 8 races. So the question is, will top 10 finishes through this round make you find a spot in Phoenix?
A win will, right? So I think that's our goal the next 3 weeks is try to bring cars that are capable of winning and me going out and doing my job to win the race. So, I thought we had decent speed in practice. I didn't rip off a lap there, just catching other cars and whatnot. But gonna need to go put a good lap down here, and if we're not gonna win, need to go get good points and not be the guy that has a bad week. So just proud of these guys and want to finish strong with them.
He mentioned finish strong again. That was the big news this week. Sheldon Creed won't return to RCR after this season, as we have Myatt Snyder finishing up his lap in the 19. Just a few starts for Myatt this year. Myatt goes 8th fastest on his lap at a 30.31. Kaz Grala next on the clock.
Kaz coming off a 5th place finish a week ago.
Kaz, another one of those drivers who was in the green going into turn 1 and then lost about 0.3 of a second through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, it happens that quickly. You're committed down in there, and then we talk about those bumps and just starts bouncing around, and you have no choice really but to back out of the gas and make sure that you're not crashing.
Kaz is 11th fastest for his lap.
You let the jet distract you, didn't you, Rick?
It did. I thought, man, Parker's car sounds fast out there, but it's a fighter jet that just took off from Nellis, going through 3 and 4 as we see Kligerman on the clock. Another driver. Here we go. Another one in the green as he gets into turn 1, but then, and he's got a handful as well.
Yeah, you watch that left front. The left rear tire is bouncing and the left front tire is turning left and right. That really shows you the correction is on the steering wheel.
Yeah, it hurts his exit, and then that in turn hurts the straightaway speed down the backstretch. What a battle he had last week there. That was just great racing. Yeah, Daniel Hemrick right there, and Parker trying to get enough spots to make it into the round of 8.
Parker was so strong, with the exception of Bristol. As we see Riley Herbst out on track, we'll also see Riley Herbst help paint. We had mentioned that earlier, the start-finish line painted pink, again for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And Las Vegas native Riley Herbst helping out with some of the cancer survivors and their families that also come out and help here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, just such a great program and opportunity to give back and help and recognize what so many have been through, and had the good fortune for a lot of years to be associated through Ford Motor Company and some sponsors to help out Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation, and just great awareness, and keep trying to make things better.
Yes, try to make it go away.
Yeah.
Here comes Josh Berry. I think this was one of the bigger surprises of the year also. Josh Berry not having the success behind the wheel of the 8 car for Junior Motorsports, but then announced to head to Stewart Haas Racing next year. He'll take over the number 4 for the retiring Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, if you want to see how to go through turn 1, right there, you go back and watch that right there.
Fastest lap turned, it's Josh Berry now at a 29.67. This might be his toughest competition out of the Junior Motorsports camp.
I'm pretty sure he knows how to go through here too. Let's see how his car reacts.
A great job coming up the green. He had 200s really turning into the corner.
Yeah, see, Josh Berry was higher on his entry, and his car was turning through the center and on the exit instead of fighting it up the track and losing that speed. That was just the difference in the 2 cars.
That's where Allgaier lost all of that speed that he had, and so about 0.2 of a second slower for Allgaier on this lap than Berry, and that slots him in 3rd. Eight still to go in qualifying, and it's Sammy Smith.
Nice and high, wide arc in 3 and 4 coming up to the speed. Let's see if it translates into green. Well, about even, not really gaining anything coming to the green.
But he does gain a little bit entering turn 1, then loses that through the middle.
Yeah, once again, he got down there to the bottom, but there's no room to turn from that point. Your car can't be pointed, and where the 8 car of Josh Berry was pointing straight, driving up off the corner, and anytime you're going straighter, the wheels aren't turned, then you're not scrubbing off speed. A good lap.
Yeah, really good lap for Sammy Smith. He's 2nd fastest, just behind Berry. 29.76 for Sammy Smith. Chandler Smith next on the clock. No relation.
Pole sitter in the spring, 29.48. I'm not sure the track has a 40 something in it, but we're getting ready to find out if Chandler can back up the task of sitting on the pole.
Yeah, he's just looking for a low 60 something right now.
Yeah.
Gonna be close.
See if he can gain any off exit.
Yeah.
Lost it through 3 and 4 and was never able to gain back any of it. So he is 3rd fastest now. Top 3 playoff drivers. Sammy Smith, Chandler Smith, and Allgaier all right now in the top 5. We'll see what Sheldon Creed has.
Yeah, he had a big wide arc, and
he
just
did.
never got to the bottom.
But once it started bouncing, there was no more turning the wheel.
Yeah, it's not a bad lap. Just Berry's so fast at that 29.67.
Yeah, he was 16th in practice on that, he said, but clock's in 11th right now.
Still got a stack of fast cars left, though, with Hemrick, Hill, Custer, and Mayer. John Hunter Nemechek, once again, you won't see him qualify. He had a mechanical issue, had to go to the garage. That happened in practice, so he doesn't get to make a qualifying lap.
Former series champion Daniel Hemrick. He also will be moving to the Cup Series in 2024. Will stay with the organization, Colleague Racing.
It's just great to see once again what this series was designed for, that is giving opportunities. You know, Hemrick and John Hunter both have been up to the Cup Series but came back down. Did the same thing myself, and you know, then was able to make it back. So you just never know. These opportunities come along, but the series is doing what it's designed for, is giving these drivers the opportunity to showcase their talents. Good lap there, fifth quickest.
Here's Austin Hill, and in practice he was the slowest, one of the slowest of the 8 playoff drivers, as he right now is in the green entering one, but had to go up the racetrack there.
Well, he just looked like he said, I'm not having anything to do with those bumps. Apparently in practice it didn't feel very good, so there's no reason to challenge that.
That looked like a driver that said, my car didn't go over the bumps good in practice, so let's not risk it. Which, this is not a bad idea. He has those extra points. He doesn't have to qualify in the type of driver that said, my car didn't go over the bumps good in practice, so let's not risk it. Which, this is not a bad idea. He has those extra points. He doesn't have to qualify in the top 3 or 4. You go in those bumps and it bounces sideways, big correction, you're going to qualify outside the top 20, if not hit the wall. Here he's 9th. So Custer Mayer, the worst he's going to start is 11th.
Yeah.
So Cole Custer, who was fastest in practice, ran a 30.37. He will have to pick up 0.7 of a second if he wants to get past Barry. And right now, in the wrong direction as he enters 3. Gains a little bit back on corner exit, but is there enough time to get to it?
That was a big run at it that comes up just shy. 4 100ths.
29.71 for Cole Custer, and now the final qualifying run will be Sam Mayer. So Josh Berry watching on as one of his teammates, the last one to go.
That was a good lap through there. Very smooth. Not going to be quite as quick as Josh Berry. I think you can relax, Josh. You got this, buddy.
There's no relax in that face. And Mayer is a half a second off, so it's going to be Josh Berry's pole. The 32-year-old grabs his 4th career pole. His last one was in Michigan 8 starts ago. And now he smiles, a little laugh there with the team. We'll go down to Kim.
And it's hard to bet against Josh Berry when it comes to Las Vegas and the fall race. First, let's talk about that qualifying lap. Did you know when you made it that it was going to be a pole-winning lap?
Not really. I didn't love my lap, honestly. I felt like I left a little bit out there. It's so tough, right? You're just carrying so much throttle and just knowing exactly how much you need to do there with the, to keep up with the racetrack. But our car's really solid. I was pretty happy with it in practice. Tomorrow's going to be a completely different day. It's going to be much hotter. I know the groove's going to move around a lot. Last year we ran the fence basically the whole race. So we gotta, we still got some work to do tonight. To make the right adjustments for the conditions tomorrow. But overall, it's a really good start, and just proud of everybody at Junior Motorsports. Us on the 8 team, obviously we're disappointed to be out of the playoffs, but we've had a lot of speed lately, and we're knocking on the door to win. So there'd be no place better than tomorrow.
And you've won the last 2 fall races here at Vegas. What about this race suits you so well, or your driving style? What is it?
I don't know. It's just, it's a really good track for Junior Motorsports. Our cars have always been really solid here, and Hendrick Motorsports gives us great engines and great chassis. So I think it's a combination of a number of different things. Each race that I've won has been entirely different conditions and different cars, different teams. So all in all, it's exciting to come here. We're ready for tomorrow, and I just want to thank Lube Zone for coming on board. Mark Clark, Darren Odell, everybody at Lube Zone for coming on board. A great looking race car, and we're going to try to take it to victory lane tomorrow.
What I hear in that answer, guys, is adaptability. Apparently, Josh Berry has it when it comes to this race at Las Vegas.
Well, we have to remember while he doesn't have, the most Xfinity Series starts, race starts in a career, you throw late models and everything else in, he kind of matches up against anyone else. And I think that's that experience Kim just mentioned, right? Is he kind of knows when to, there's no blueprint to that. He feels like maybe I need to move around, try something a little different. You kept talking about entry angles, and I think he's the type that would kind of experiment with that, and that's why he finds success here.
That's why he's going to the Cup Series next year, too.
Yeah, yes.
That's another one. Let's take a look at the grid, how they will start tomorrow. Those in the background, those Jets aren't a part of the field, but Josh Berry and Cole Custer, a couple playoff drivers. Josh obviously eliminated out of the playoffs in this round of 8. But Cole Custer will start on the front row. Sammy Smith, Chandler Smith in row 2.
Probably expected Justin Allgaier to be a little further up there, but gosh, when you're talking about 7th, still pretty good starting spot.
Yeah, Austin Hill, we mentioned that kind of conservative lap around the top, does what he needs to do. He'll start inside the top 10 right next to Lane Riggs.
Yeah, outstanding run for Lane there.
Parker Kligerman starting in row 6. We see playoff driver Sam Mayer in 7 and Sheldon Creed in row 8.
Dawson Cram, good in practice, good again in qualifying. See if he can put a nice race together, hopefully run inside that top 20. He's going to start just outside the top 20 in row 11.
Yeah, you see Maya Snyder there in row 10. Hasn't had a lot of races recently, but they're going to have those here at the end of the year. But getting acclimated there, I look for him to be up well inside the top 10 tomorrow.
Row 13, welcome back Ryan Reed to the Xfinity Series. Has not had a start since 2018, but has had success in the series. He'll start in that 13th row.
And these drivers, you talk about those bumps in 1 and 2, but on the original start and the restarts, it's going to be bumpy and 2 and 3 wide, and that makes this final page so important because you see all the way back there, John Hunter Nemechek. He's going to be in row 19, never get a chance to qualify, and I think he has speed enough to work his way up through the field, but patience, and more importantly, opportunity. Will the opportunity be presented?
Kim, we saw Cole Custer with a fast race car in practice, second fastest in qualifying. How's he feeling?
Well, Rick, and a little stat for you, his 9th front row start this season. Not too bad, not quite enough for the pole here today, though. What was missing during that qualifying lap?
I think I just left a little bit there in 1 and 2. The bumps, they're definitely get your attention this time. So I just didn't want to go over there and ruin the whole lap. So I left a little bit out there. But our guys did a great job. This Haas Automation Mustang is really fast. Our race run speed was really good in practice. Our guys have worked so hard on mile and a half stuff this year, and it's cool to see that we can bring this faster race cars to the track. So looking forward to tomorrow. It's going to be a hot, slick race. So it's going to be a long one, but I think we have what it takes to stay up there.
And you have the track position to start, which will be crucial in getting stage points because you're -2 to that elimination line to start this round. What do you do to execute, especially that first stage?
We've done this, and it's just you just got to maximize your day. I mean, I think our team's done a great job the last round doing that. We had a lot of solid finishes, and I think we've had the speed all year to be in that Final Four. It's just a matter of having these clean races and maximizing the days.
Cole Custer will have a front row seat to start tomorrow's 300-miler.
Kim referenced it just moments ago there as far as where Cole Custer is in the points. We want to remind you, everyone was reset to 3,000 points that made it here to this round of 8, and then all of the playoff points that they had earned throughout the year and that first round of the playoffs, those are added in. That's why you see Sammy Smith with 3,006 points all the way up to John Hunter Nemechek with 3,055.
Yeah, that's tight right there, though, from 4th with Sam Mayer at 3,020 back. So 14 points back there. So that's easily gotten you look at Chandler Smith. I mean, he has a good first stage, and all of a sudden he finds himself. Of course, Cole Custer's looking at moving right up the ranks, too. So going to be a tough race. What makes it so hard is how hard you have to drive these cars at this racetrack. And you talk about those bumps. Steve pointed out you're going to have, restarts and things that are going to make things really dicey. And for someone like John Hunter, who's sitting there and you think, oh, he's in really good shape, but all it takes is a mistake. Not his mistake, but a mistake in front of him, and then his day's ruined.
Yeah, a perfect day without a win, winning both stages and second in the race, you could score 55 points. So when you look at that 40-something gap he has all the way, I think that's really the mindset for John Hunter. If I'm in part of this team, Ben Bayshore, I'm saying, listen, I'm sorry this happened. None of us liked it. We're starting in the back. I know you want to get stage points. I appreciate the confidence, let's not let that bleed over into a mistake. If we can only get to 15th, let it be. Race all day long, we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Kim, another one of the playoff drivers that will start up there in the top 5
is Sammy Smith, P3 in qualifying. Great effort there. What's going to be the biggest challenge, though, tomorrow for you and this team?
Yeah, I think just keeping up with the track. It'll change a lot from today and then tomorrow and then throughout the course of the race. So I think just keeping up with it and trying to get good stage points and be there at the end to have a good solid finish.
As we look at this round, and then we know the championship is in Phoenix, where you won earlier this year, is it easy to get distracted knowing if you can just get to Phoenix, it could be your championship to win? How do you kind of manage that throughout the course of the next 3 races?
Yeah, I think just take one race at a time. I feel like we worked really hard here for Vegas. We struggled a little bit the first race, and I feel like we got really close, and I feel long run speed, short run speed, overall speed's really happy, and hopefully we can go keep up with the track tomorrow and have a good day. Thank you.
So Xfinity Series qualifying has set the field. Josh Berry has won the pole. Cole Custer, one of the playoff drivers, will start on that front row as well. We'll talk Cup Series. They're up next tomorrow morning.
Here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the attention, the focus, all on these 8 championship drivers.
Oh! Hey, put your fluid tire, guys. Down, 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 down.
It's amazing how many of the playoff contenders have had problems.
Oh, we got curb bunch in the wall.
We've seen a lot of mistakes on pit road today.
Oh, and into the wall goes Bubba Wallace. And he comes back across the track, tags the 5.
Stay up, stay up, stay up. Stay middle, stay middle.
A playoff driver involved in this.
Somebody there decided that they were going to take some action.
William Byron gets sideways, made contact with Ryan Blaney.
Cha-ching, baby. Nice job.
Yeah, we took a gamble this weekend.
Kurt Busch is going to win in his hometown.
Vegas, baby.
Logano slides up in front of Ross Chastain to the backstretch.
Welcome to the Championship 4.
Championship, baby.
Never know what's going to happen when the playoff starts, and it does start right here in Las Vegas. Tomorrow, it's Cup Series practice and qualifying at 12:30 on USA, then countdown to green for the Xfinity Series race, 3 and 3:30 there. Petit Le Mans has the biggest field ever, and that is 52 cars. So that will be at 6:30 on USA. And on Sunday, it's countdown to green and Cup Series playoffs on NBC starting at 2 o'clock. Take a look at the point standings after they were reset at 4,000, and everybody's playoff points added in, and it is going to be a tight one there from 4th all the way down to 8th.
Well, when I look at this one, DJ, the thing that really jumps out to me is we had a few guys that made the playoffs that didn't have a lot of playoff points, but they were unable to move forward. So now this is the closest William Byron and Truex have started to the cut line, and for sure the closest they've started to the last guy in the standings. So while they still have a small cushion, this is an entire race window. I mean, they're going to have maybe a stage worth or a stage and a half worth, but everyone's going to have to really show up.
Well, and when you look at those, the first 4 drivers there, they're all outstanding at these tracks that are coming up in this round. I mean, Byron and Larson have won races at all 3 of these tracks. Denny Hamlin has 9 wins at these tracks coming up. I think the whole question centers around what do we see out of this 19 team in these next couple of weeks. It's been a struggle for them to this point. Can they get things back on the rail and be the team that we saw win the regular season championship and now get themselves in a position to battle and try to be a part of the championship 4 at Phoenix?
Again, the first opportunity to lock yourself into the championship 4 happens on Sunday. And earlier this year, William Byron got things started as far as the 2023 season goes in pretty convincing fashion, led 176 laps here at the track.
Yeah, spanked him. I mean, he was just phenomenal. And he really hasn't slowed down through the season. I mean, he's had a couple like that being dominant. Watkins Glen was that. But he showed that he can win and ready to win anywhere, any week, anytime, and any condition. Might not have the fastest car all weekend, but they work on this thing, and then William Byron in this 24 shows up.
I think that's really the challenge I'm going to have handicapping this field. As DJ did a great point of talking about how dominant the 4 above the cut line have been at these next 3 tracks. But Ryan Blaney, I didn't have him picked to go to the 600. Oh, win the race, right? So, I mean, who can't win? Ryan Blaney? Tyler Reddick? I mean, these guys can absolutely win. Chris Buescher, while he doesn't have the mile-and-a-half stats the other guys have, he had really very few of the stats entering the year. He's having a career year. Why not let it continue? Christopher Bell proved last year with 2 walk-off wins to advance that if you push him into the corner, he can find another gear.
And remember, this round starts off with 2 mile-and-a-half racetracks, and you look at the round of 8 drivers that are in here and what their average finish has been on mile-and-a-half tracks.
Yeah, and the average finish, I get over further right. It just look, you talk about 9 wins for Denny and 6 for Martin Truex Jr. That's just phenomenal. But there is somebody, we keep talking about average finish like it doesn't matter. It does matter because somebody, regardless, we have 3 different winners in these 3 races. Somebody's getting in on points. So who's going to navigate their way through?
So the bigger question for me is, I think Sunday's an absolute playoff driver win. I think these 8, someone's going to step up and win.
Yeah.
You have the same opinion?
Yes, 100%. I believe that happened. I think that happens the next 2 weeks, as a matter of fact.
And I know you have said that you think Chris Buescher might be the shocker of making it into the championship 4, DJ.
I really do. I think he can be solid enough. He doesn't make mistakes. I think even though he might not have the speed that you're looking for, I think he finds a way to finish well in these first 2. And then short tracks have been his specialty this year.
Again, for the Xfinity Series, it started off not so good for John Hunter Nemechek. They didn't even get to qualify. On the other end of it, Josh Berry wins the pole, and Cole Custer will start on the front row. More NASCAR and motorsports coverage always available on NBCSports.com. Coming up next on USA, it's the 911 Marathon.